So, the autism community. I think it's time we had a chat. Well, hello into people, how you guys doing? Hope you're doing okay. Now this video today is basically one where I've got thoughts in my head about the autism community and all of its wonders and all of the things that concern me about it. And I just wanted to talk to you today to just talk about the things that worry me, concern me about the autism community as it currently stands. This is just fully fledged my own opinion and viewpoint. You know, you can disagree with the stuff that I'm potentially going to say, you can agree with me, you know, I would love to know what you think down below in the comments, and let's just have an open and honest conversation. But anyway, things I dislike about the autism community as they currently stand. This whole thing of shutting conversations down online, you know, people who are curious about our community and wanting to know about autism, maybe it's for their kid, or maybe they're autistic themselves, or they're looking for a diagnosis or seeking a diagnosis, or they're self-diagnosed or something like that, and people shut conversations down because their viewpoint or their opinion doesn't necessarily match up with theirs. People can have differing opinions. It doesn't mean that they are bad people or their intentions are bad. But for me, you know, if you see someone tweeting something that you don't agree with purely based on the language that they've said, so they could have said, I met a person with autism today and I learned so much about it. You know, I learned so much about autism from this person with autism. People will actually just take the person with autism part, attack said person because because they're using a terminology that they don't agree with. Now, I have my personal preferences when it comes to terminology. I say autistic person, but that's my preference. And if people say person with autism, I don't particularly care, because at the end of the day it should be about the message that a person is trying to put out there. You know, they met someone who is autistic, a person with autism, blah blah blah, and you know, they got something out of that conversation. I personally feel that people in the autistic community focus far too much on the way things are said rather than the actual context of what the person's saying, I feel. Because to me, I think language should not be a barrier to having a healthy conversation. You know, yes, obviously we can have our preferences, like I say, we can disagree on stuff, but I don't think that it should halt conversations from happening. And it's something that I see a lot in the autism community, and it makes me very fearful for the future. And it actually makes me fearful just for people wanting to explore our community and wanting to know about autism a little bit more because of their kid that's just recently been diagnosed, or they're looking into a diagnosis for themselves, or maybe it's a professional thing, I don't know. I just personally feel that policing language is just crazy. It's just not something that, again, is helpful to be inclusive of people, and I just think, you know, it creates divisions rather than brings us together. It just halts conversation for one. I just think it's silly, and I think there are more important things to actually advocate for, more important things to address, you know, like autistic people who are in education who aren't getting the right support because of education, or you know, people who are autistic adults looking for work and struggling to find work. You know, those are the things that we should be talking about, things that are actually impacting people, rather than really monotonous, really just petty talk about what labels we should be using and, you know, how to address people in the autism community. Another thing that I dislike about the community is this whole attitude that autistic people have, some autistic people have, and like they talk for the whole community, every single autistic person, by saying, we as autistic people think you should say this about autistic people, or that's a very general example, but basically saying that we as autistic people, all of us collectively as a group, agree with this mindset. I think you can tell probably by this video that I don't necessarily agree with every single viewpoint that every single autistic person has. And also, I personally believe that we as autistic people are individuals. You know, we have our own mindset, our own way of thinking. And to, you know, say that we all think this way, again, I just think it's stupid. I just think it's ludicrous. I just think it's just really, really wrong to generalize. It's kind of like when non-autistic people say a certain stereotype about autistic people. When autistic people say we are this or we prefer that, it's the same thing. Basic generalizations, you know, it's a thing on both sides, and I think it's a bit hypocritical to say that, oh, you're generalizing about autistic people, blah blah blah, when, you know, people who are also autistic generalize about the way autistic people think. And again, for me, I'm all about inclusion, but at the same time, I talk about my autism, about my experience alone. I can't speak for the whole community, nor do I try to. If you're autistic and you think that all autistic people share the same mindset as you, like, for example, all autistic people say autistic person or something like that, I don't necessarily think that. Like I say, I have my preferences, but I don't particularly care how someone addresses themselves. You know, they could say, I'm a person with autism. I don't particularly care. If they are happy identifying with how they are identifying, who am I to suppress their viewpoint and how they identify, you know? And actually, that's another thing about the autism community which I really dislike. This whole idea of identity and trying to basically tell people how to identify. Now, like I say, I have my preferences when it comes to how I personally identify and how I personally talk about autistic people. I say autistic person, but I'm personally fearful that if I say anything else, like on the spectrum, which I do in these videos anyway, or person with autism, I'm just going to get a load of backlash from it. And it's draining. It's truly draining. If someone wants to identify as an autistic person, that's cool. Person with autism, great, cool. On the spectrum, great. If a person wants to identify as a Smurf, I don't care. I don't care. You can identify as a Smurf as long as it makes you happy, you feel comfortable with who you are. You know, I just don't think we should really be focusing on labels and controlling language and, you know, dictating how we identify people. I think there are more important things to actually advocate for. I think there are actually things in the real world that are happening right now that are more pressing. But the other thing I dislike about the autism community is this mindset that clicky titles are bad and clicky thumbnails are bad, and basically, you know, people are talking about their experiences on YouTube specifically because they want to be famous, make money, all of these different things. Now, let me just be clear here about me making YouTube videos. I don't do this for the money. If I wanted to make money from doing stuff online, I would choose a different hobby. Let me just be clear about that. Yes, there are ads running on my videos. Yes, I do make money from those video ads, but it's nowhere near enough to sustain me in any way. But even if that was the case where, you know, ads were sustaining me, you know, I had merch, I had all of this stuff, you know, if that was sustaining me, I still wouldn't be doing it for the money. I would do it, I'd still do this because I enjoy doing this as a hobby. I enjoy talking about my experiences, and I feel people get value from that, you know? But, you know, some people in the autism community just see people who are making videos that are clicky. So having thumbnails that, you know, I don't know, are very clickable. Clickiness on YouTube is not something I'm a fan of. as an autistic person, not as a content creator, but as someone who is autistic, I'm not a fan of clicky culture. I never have been. But that doesn't mean to say that I think clickiness is bad. I don't think it is necessarily. I think it's the context. But people in the autism community have some kind of issue with people going down that route, and I can understand that. I really do. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I think if you're using clicky methods to, bring people in because you have a positive message to say, I don't see anything wrong with that, personally. The other thing about the autism community that I dislike, in a sense, is this whole idea that making money's bad from talking about autism. I don't understand why this is a thing, personally. If someone's making content and, I don't know, they're talking about their autism, and they're putting real hours into it, and they're doing this full time, they should be paid for the stuff that they are making and the time that they're putting into their content. That's personally just my viewpoint on it, And like I said, I think it depends on the context. If someone's making positive content, positive videos, having a positive message, then they should be getting paid for that. That's just what I think. I don't think there's anything bad with autistic people trying to make something of themselves and try to make a career path for themselves. Especially in a world which, when it comes to jobs and things, they're quite hard to get, and if people who are autistic are, doing YouTube or whatever medium they're doing stuff, and they're getting paid for that, that's a cool thing. That is, amazing. That's a really amazing thing, especially if it's sustainable as well. I think good on them, they're doing something that they love, or they're putting the time and effort in to make something of themselves. But I just think overall that, there are issues with the autism community, the same with any other community that is out there. But I think it's important to understand that people have different life experiences, different viewpoints, different opinions on things. And yes, we can disagree with those people who have that mindset or opinion or viewpoint. And, we shouldn't be triggered every single time that someone says something incorrectly in your opinion or has a different viewpoint to you that you just completely and utterly disagree with. There are more important things to worry about and actual real life matters that need addressing, rather than these really petty things that hold us back, that hold us from a more inclusive society. If you have an opinion or a viewpoint that you want to share, leave it down below. I would love to hear from you, and thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a big thumbs up for me down below, and if you want to see more, there's some playlists in the description box. But for now, stay you, stay indie. I do hope you have a really great day, and don't let opinions get you down. See you later.